Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday, November 10th, 5:17 a.m. Central Time as I speak here. I'm getting started a little bit early today. Quick housekeeping note, guys. I'm going to be out of the office tomorrow. I'm taking a very rare day off. No podcast, no video tomorrow. I will be back to the normal schedule on Monday. We've got December corn futures down 1 3/4 at 663 and a quarter. January soybeans down 2.5 at 1449 and a half. December Chicago wheat down 3/4 cents at 805 and 3/4. December Kansas City wheat down a quarter at 929 and 3/4. December spring wheat down 3/4 cents at 937 and a half. If you guys are listening on the podcast, appreciate it. Ratings and reviews, very much welcome. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Leave me a comment. If you've got yield updates, basis updates, if you caught some rain here over the last week, drop it in the comments. All of that stuff will help YouTube to help me to grow this channel. Appreciate it as always. If you guys would like some additional information from me, visit my website, www.standardgrain.com. Check out my premium subscription service today. I send my premium subscribers a ton of information direct from me every single business day. Morning email goes out about 5:30 a.m. Central. In that email, you'll see every overnight headline you need to be aware of, charts, graphics, weather information, all of my grain marketing recommendations. My daily subscriber-only videos are part of this deal. Yesterday, of course, I talked about the USDA report, and on report day, I typically have a quick video snapshot sent out within 20 or 30 minutes of the release, so it's really timely information on report day, and then I'll elaborate on that in the newsletter the next day. If you guys are interested in this sort of content, new stuff every single day, sign up today. $50 a month, cancel at any time, no other fee, no other obligation. Nobody will try to sell you anything else, I promise. Mexican leadership continues to indicate that it will proceed with its planned ban of GMO corn exports, or imports rather. Every time they've been asked about this, they've really kind of stuck to their guns. Mexico's president said this yesterday. There is a market for it, but the government cannot make a purchase because we do not want GM. We are a sovereign free country. So Mexico's plan as of right now is to ban all imports of GMO corn in 2024. They also plan to phase out glyphosate. U.S. farm lobbies insist that the ban will cause billions of dollars in economic damage. John Doggett, I'm probably saying his name wrong, CEO of the National Corn Growers Association, had an opinion piece or letter in the Wall Street Journal this week. He urged the U.S. Trade Rep's office to intervene and file a dispute with Mexico under the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement, the USMCA. Mexico, this is a big deal because Mexico is typically among the top importers of U.S. corn. It's like 600 million bushels a year, big chunk of change. The last couple of years, China's been the biggest buyer, but prior to like mid-2020, Mexico and Japan were always up there as the largest buyers of U.S. corn on the export market. So this is a big deal. A lot of people think that it won't happen, that there's some sort of political motivation behind this sort of rhetoric. I really don't know what to make of it. If this does happen, and for some reason we do lose all that corn demand, yeah, that's probably not a good deal. We had a USDA report yesterday. There were some noteworthy changes. So USDA increased the U.S. corn and soybean production estimates, which is not something that was necessarily expected. The corn yield now pegged nationally at 172.3, up from 171.9 last month. Soybean yield back up to 50.2 bushels per acre, up from 49.8 last month. So for those of you guys who thought maybe the corn yield was going to end up in the 160s or the bean yield was going to end up at 48, I think that's probably off the table. I think that these numbers are probably pretty close to where we'll be at the end of the day. Some people think maybe they could even go a little bit higher from here. Now, the balance sheets were kind of interesting. I thought very much so that USDA probably should have cut its corn export number, and they did not. As a matter of fact, they increased the feed demand number, so your carryout was actually lower than the trade had expected. I think you got to kind of read between the lines here and go with the idea that that export number comes down in the future. In soybeans, they increased the crush estimate marginally, but not a ton of changes on the U.S. balance sheets. On the global balance sheets, nothing totally outside the realm of what was expected here. We saw some, I think they reduced the Argentina soybean production estimate and left all the South American stuff unchanged outside of that. Brazil's government also had a crop report out yesterday. CONAB is Brazil's USDA. They pegged the country soybean crop at 153.5 million, up from 152.4 previously. USDA is at 152. So the Brazilian government very strongly of the opinion that this is going to be just a monster crop. They've got soybean exports at 96.5 million metric tons for Brazil, up from their previous estimate. That number from USDA is 89.5. So there's quite a bit of discrepancy between what USDA projects that Brazil will export and what Brazil projects that they will export. Corn exports seen at 45 million, the crop at 126.9, which is actually off. I'm sorry, 126.4, which is actually off a little bit previously. But general idea here, guys, Brazilian corn and soybean production estimates are all indicative of record high numbers. It's just a question by how much as of right now. But it's early in the ball game. I mean, they're still planting beans. The second corn crop hasn't even been planted yet. So you still got a lot of time here. U.S. ethanol production improved again last week. Weekly output 1.051 million barrels per day. That was up 1% on the week, up 1% versus the same week last year. Pretty decent looking number. You've seen your normal seasonal increase in ethanol production here over the last few weeks. Very normal stuff for October, November. Harvest corn deliveries arrive at the plants and production improves. Ethanol stocks, 22.192 million barrels. That was off just a little bit on the week. Still the second highest seasonal print on record behind 2018. So ethanol stocks are still stubbornly high. Gasoline demand on average over the last 4 weeks is running 6.5-7% behind the same period last year. So gasoline demand is still kind of soft. The deadline for a deal with railroad workers has been extended. The Brotherhood of Maintenance of Way Employees Division of the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, that's the third largest railroad union, announced that negotiations would be extended. So a strike is still possible, but it would not happen until at least December 4th. The prior deadline was November 20th. That new date coincides with the deadline from another large rail union, the Brotherhood of Signalmen. A union spokesperson said this: with this extension, BLET and SMART-TD will have the opportunity to finish their ratification procedures for any tentative national agreements without disruption. If these unions do not ratify, then we will have the opportunity to bring all of the rail labor together under a single deadline to finish national negotiations. So if there's going to be a rail strike, it's been kicked to December 4th. A rail strike, of course, if realized, would be an absolute disaster. It would cripple the supply chain, grain movement, all of those things. UN officials will meet with a Russian delegation to discuss an extension of the Black Sea grain deal. This meeting will occur tomorrow or overnight in Geneva. A UN spokesperson said this: it is hoped that the discussions will advance progress made in facilitating the unimpeded export of food and fertilizers originating from the Russian Federation to the global markets. So as of right now, Putin has reserved the right to again withdraw from the deal upon its expiration, which I believe is next week. To this point, Russia has indicated that it would allow grain to flow freely from Ukraine, even if it decides to exit the deal. So I think you had some optimism about this yesterday, and I think that's maybe part of the reason why the wheat market was a little bit soft. But you may have some forthcoming headlines here regarding the Black Sea situation, in the next 24 hours, and that could be good or bad, depending on what happens. We've got an export sales report this morning at 7:30 a.m. Central. Corn sales should be 300 to 650 for the current marketing year. Soybean sales 600 to 1.2 expected. Wheat sales 250 to 600 expected. The cattle market was lower yesterday. Cash cattle reported 150 in the south, 152 to 153 in the north. There'll probably be some more business here this week. U.S. dollar's a little bit higher. Stock market's up marginally. The S&P 500's up 13 points. The Dow's up 80. Bonds are up a little bit. Gold's off $3. Crude oil down 56 cents, back down to 85.25 in the December WTI. Guys, I am out tomorrow. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. I will be back on Monday.